at all coolant which are allowed. On the Jubilee terminal, there it was a little bit different. It was in the second terminal, where certain fridges had R12 with the CFC. And I think it's then up to the Ghanaian authority to see how to handle it. That only for the visits on the ports, which we have now. Coming now to the notification procedure. The aim of notifications are prior informed consent. This means all relevant competent authorities, including a list of registered numbers carriers, to which I come back later. That is then, if you have your notification document in front of you in box 8. Then there should be also a contract between the exporter and the disposer, which is not a normal commercial contract. It includes also obligations. If something goes wrong, the exporter has to take back the stuff. A financial guarantee or insurance and a route description. You can, now the better. You can find this in this other paper which I gave you yesterday, but this is only for the filling in of the both forms, notification and movement document. In Annex 5A and 5B of the Basel Convention, you find something similar, but I think this paper is better for it. It's more ausführlich? More in detail. And at the European Waste Shipment Regulation, all this is also written down in Annex 2. Coming now to the notification procedure as such. On Tuesday we have given you, or you got it already before, I don't know, this paper from the Basel Convention where it is also explained. We use this for graphics of the 4 stages and modified a little bit. Between the exporter and the disposer, there should be a contract, which I mentioned before. Then the generator applies to his competent authority with a notification, which I mentioned, but must be the minimum requirements. The competent authority of the exporter country looks at it and finds out whether it is complete and so far all right. He gives a note, a verbal note is enough, but send a copy to the competent authority for the import and also the transit, if transit countries are involved. So, next one. Competent authority in the exporting countries, in the importing countries, gives the acknowledgement in box 19, where you can see acknowledgement.
So that is.
Yeah, you can do that. Is only a notification form. You can.
Okay.
Hmm? And give also in checking whether the disposer is disposing according to environmental sound management. And when you look in the Basel Convention at Article 6, on paragraph 4, you find there the 60 days. In the moment when this competent authority gives the acknowledgement, the 60 days starts. And you can do it shorter, but the maximum are 60 days. So you can be sure after 60 days, if everything goes all right, the notification is in place. They give their consent, give it to the country of export, and they give their consent too, which is then in box 20. And the competent authority of the export gives then to the generator the consent of the notification. So from this point of view, if transit doesn't say anything against it, the transboundary movement can start. So this is then the way of the waste. And here it comes an important point that the transboundary movement must be accompanied with a movement document. For each transport, there should be a separate movement document which will accompany the whole load until it comes to the disposal. And when it's reached the disposer, he signed the movement document in box 18, where he confirms the arrival and give it then to the generator and also to the competent authority of the generator. And when the disposal is done, he gives in box 19 the finishing of the disposal, and parallel to the competent authority of the in the export country and to the generator, he gives a kind of certificate that the disposal is finished. This has to be done, I think, by us it is in a half a year. If this paper doesn't come back, then the competent authority of the export country goes to the import country and asks them and find out what is happened with this particular load, because we didn't get a certificate of final disposal. And then comes really the tracking. But normally we don't have problems, because this is a procedure which goes quite often and it goes quite smoothly. When you have question to it, and you will see it, it is not so easy. You can come anytime to us. So that is the one which I gave you in the morning. Maybe you had the chance to have a look. Later we can see shortly what is missing and what should be improved. Ach so, ist das jetzt schon? Ja, okay. I can start it now. Ach so, ja, richtig. I don't know how many of you have gone through this notification document. Okay, Jona? What do you think what is missing and what could be improved?
What's missing in this form?
Yeah, also box 1 and 6 I took away.
Then the intended period as well. It's just the name, but it doesn't say anything else.
No, I have the impression they put only the shipping line inside, which is not. It would be more appropriate. And here they wrote down in writing the kind of waste, where I would think, because I will come to this then also, is the classification is B1110. It could be stated that it's depolluted, so it is not dangerous. Now come to the next.
Excuse me.
Yes?
And that 22, yeah, you are saying the composition.
Genau, gehen wir mal einen zurück, bitte.
Yes, yeah, 12.
This here.
Yeah, I thought they should also now declare the different fractions, because it's just electrical. They could go further to say maybe
They could
computers,
do it. They could do it deeper. I agree, but then they should list it on, do a list.
Yes.
But I think what is more important is to say it is depolluted or not depolluted. Depolluted, also take off the batteries, all the hazardous stuff. I think this would be enough in this particular case. To put a list like what you mean, it's okay. What? Sorry, what? Did?
So I think that's simple. Just electronic waste is okay.
Yeah, it would be all right, but from this point of view, there is no need of a list. But if you add a list, it's
But
okay.
Do we not need to differentiate between hazardous electronic waste and non-hazardous? Because some non-hazardous waste, depending upon the receiving country, may not need to go through notification.
That is right, and for this, I will show you later, is then in Europe not a notification procedure necessary, it is a kind of information. Komme ich auf den Begriff nicht. Kind of information page there, which I can show you later. This is then for the non-hazardous waste, but it is only used in Europe. But if the competent authority of the export country is accepting it, then it is all right. But if they want to have the stronger procedure and they would like to make a notification, then we say, okay, we will do it.
I mean, it would be progress, I think, for solving the problem if, in an ideal world, everybody could sing, or as many people as possible could sing from the same hymn sheet, because then it would allow the non-hazardous fractions to be traded from one facility to another, and the hazardous fractions to go under the notification procedure.
I think we are on our way in this direction, but still we must take in consideration the international treaties, and the Basel Convention is only handling the notification procedure. And when we modified, when we amended our waste shipment regulation in Europe in 2007, then we included this information list, which I will search for it and show you. Before, there was only a note that is not dangerous, but nobody bothers to write this. And because of this, the European Parliament insisted on it to have at least this information sheet with the non-hazardous waste. So if the competent authority of the sender from an outside European country can agree on it, we are happy to use it, because we are then not involved as such, because this is information sheet doesn't go to the authorities, it's only accompanying the waste shipment. So if on any place of the whole transport will be a control, the enforcement officers can see on the information sheet where it comes from, where it should go, what it contains as such. That is the reason for it. But it depends on the competent authority of the sender country to agree on it or say, no, sorry, we want to be on the safe side, we want to have a notification procedure, and then we say, okay, we accept this. Geh mal einen weiter.
Das ist dann schon Pinto nicht der.
Ach so. To make it short, because the time is also running, this is a mistake of myself. It should have been in this line. And here you can see is the acknowledgement. When the notification form is brought into the competent authority, they have to give the acknowledgement here, which in this case Gambia didn't have done, which is not so important. What is important is the acknowledgement from the receiving competent authority. But they will do it only if all the stuff is together. And this is then the box for the written consent, but a stamp is nice and useful, but a signature and date is necessary. And the most important thing which generator didn't do, he didn't sign this whole movement notification document, and so it is not valid. That is the most important part. And not only a signature, also the date and the name that you can read. So I think that is, from my side, enough. If you have questions, please ask.
GCO20, this is for electronic components, I think,
That is right.
which would be, in normal circumstances, would be non-hazardous and not require this document in the first place.
That is right. And I took it out, say B1110, because Gambia is not part of the OECD. And these OECD codes are normally used only inside the OECD. So they should use the Basel code, which is in this case B1110. Any other question?
Please remember just to use the microphone.
Thank you. Klaus, I was so surprised with these containers here, where there is all sorts of commodities in the container, some of which would really need a notification. Now, how do you? I think. Anyway, how would you deal with part loads in terms of notifications, and where, from which volumes notifications will be valid? Because that seems to be a bit of an issue here. Absolutely, yeah.
Exactly. Given that the electronic waste is considered in category A and category B also, how do you know when to use either category?
If it's both and if it's mixed, you mean?
No. Like, if I had a bunch of e-waste, how do I know to classify it as category A or category B?
And they found out it's a very poor protection of the items. You have a picture on the right. It's very bad loaded. There's no certificates at all, no statement of the exporter if it's e-waste or not. And thereof, they also scanned the container. You see this small picture here. and they, with the scan, they saw the whole container full with the same mix of material, and they consider it as waste. So they contacted the German authority, and they said, no, in our view, it is not waste. As a second step, what the Dutch authorities did is they did send a verification request to the competent authority in Ghana in December, 10th of December, to ask, what do you think about this shipment, please? So what happened is the waste items were taken out in Rotterdam and were disposed. So the rest of the items, the second-hand items, were repacked in Rotterdam, and the ship was carried on to Ghana. So this is our first case. The situation is the following. There are 3 countries involved. The country of export, Germany, the country of transit, the Netherlands, and the importing country, Ghana. We see that both competent authorities did not declare the items in the same way. So it's always a big question, waste or not waste. This is really the question you always have to deal with, and it's difficult to harmonize. So Germany said, it's okay, you can ship it. The Netherlands said, no, we consider it as waste. So the Netherlands asked Ghana, because they are the importing country. There is so far one problem or one negative aspect of this case, that normally it should be the exporting country asking the importing country, and not the transit country asking the exporting country. So in this case, it should have been between Germany and Ghana. They should have taken an agreement together. And the other thing is that if a container is blocked at the port, it's very costly for the exporter. So what you need as a competent authority, you need an immediate answer to be able to react as fast as possible on the request. But nevertheless, there are some very positive aspects. It's important that Ghana gave this clear statement. We do not want those goods in Ghana, please block the shipment. Because if you don't have a statement from the importing country, you can do nothing in Europe. We cannot block a container if Ghana, for example, would say, yes, bring it to us. And it was also positively that the waste items were removed in Europe and disposed in Europe. So let's have a look at the second case.
Yes.
Maybe I first show you all the 3 examples, and then if you still have questions, you can ask. Yeah. So the second case is from Indonesia. There was metal scrap containing hazardous waste shipped from UK to Indonesia. This was reported by the Indonesian media, and there was a statement in the media, the waste is unsuitable for metal recovery in Indonesia, so they cannot handle such hazardous contaminated metal scrap. So what did the competent authority from the UK? They did send a written request to the competent authority in Indonesia, and they asked for returning the shipment of waste. They did that using email, and to accompany the shipment and to make sure that it does not disappear on its way back, they used the notification form for tracking it. Normally, as Klaus explained, you have to hand in a notification form with all the required minimum documents in a hard copy form. But as you have to react very quickly when it's an illegal shipment, they didn't have time to send paper from the UK to Indonesia, get all the stamps and send it back. So what they did, they used email and fax. This is also possible. Additionally, the UK competent authorities, they had to ask Malaysia and Egypt if they get an agreement for transit of shipment through their countries. So this is a case where you can see it is very well organized. They used an official movement document, the notification, and finally the waste went back to the UK and was treated in an environmentally sound manner way. The only negative thing on this example is that the competent authority, rather than receiving a message from the competent authority in Indonesia, the competent authority from UK read about this case in the newspapers. So this should also not be the case. Competent authorities should work together, and before the media is aware of this case, they should try to arrange the take back of the shipment. Let's come back to Africa. This shipment was an e-waste shipment from UK through Belgium, Antwerp port to Nigeria. NESRA, the National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency from Nigeria, received an intelligence of the EPA UK to inform them that there is an e-waste shipment on its way from the UK to Nigeria. So the colleagues from Nigeria intercept the ship. Furthermore, they made a physical examination and found the contents listed here. There were refrigerators containing CFCs, very old model monitors, and lots of items without the power cable. You remember we were going through all this classification criteria on Tuesday. So NESRE classified this container as hazardous waste under the code A1180. And they concluded that this shipment was carried out without prior consent or any notification, and this is in violation of Article 9 of the Basel Convention. So NESRI, the competent authority from Nigeria, they did not even allow the container to enter the port, so to unload on the port. So it remained on the ship itself, and it was returned to the UK. They used as a return shipment document the so-called form for confirmed cases of illegal traffic. We have to say this form from the SPC is rather a form that is used for reporting. When they do the annual statistics, each competent authority has to fill in this form. So it was good that they did at least use a form for the return shipment, but it would be better to use the notification as it was done by the Indonesian competent authorities. The company was prosecuted by UK, and there is even a BBC article online. If you're interested in getting more information, you can click this link. So this is a mainly positive. Maybe your copies are a little bit different, but there will be the newest versions of the presentations will be available on the website.
Transboundary movement is detected. The proof must be secured, and a written request should be sent to the competent authority of export. It should be done by email, but if it's the first time, it would be not bad if an official letter is in the annex, so that you can get the idea who is behind this written request. Then both, or if necessary, like in the Indonesian case, the transit competent authorities have to agree that the whole stuff should go back. Then a decision has to be taken who will be the re-exporter. Normally it would be the original exporter if he is still available, but sometimes they disappear. So the intercepting competent authority where it was detected is then in charge to bring it back. And it would be useful, like Simone explained already in this Indonesian case, to adapt the notification procedure and do it in such a way that the transport can be tracked. All others CAs have to give the written consent, and when this is done, the return shipment can be started. And also with the disposal, they will get then, after final disposal, the movement document back with filled in box 19. Always comes the question, who is paying for this take back? It is the original exporter who is in charge of it. But if he is not anymore there, then it is the sender competent authority which is for the first export in charge. They must go in front of it. I wrote here use of the financial guarantee, but you must take in mind this is only done when a proper notification is done. In most cases which are illegal, there is no notification included, so there is also no financial guarantee. That is the crook in the whole Basel Convention or in the whole regulation, that the illegal people don't bring the money with it. So that was the last of our slide of our presentation. And now comes to the question.
About equipments as a whole piece, but we don't do export as the whole thing. We export only fractions, so I'm a little bit unsure how to do in those cases. And my second question will be regarding illegal transit. When you have an illegal, determine something illegal, wouldn't you be able to responsibilize the shipment company? Like put that container back into the ship that brought it?
Yes.
Because that is easy to identify. And that will be their problem then.
That is right, and there are cases in the past where the shipping lines have taken over because they are also in charge of what they have loaded. Also, everybody knows they don't know exactly what is inside.
Ship brought that container.
Yeah, no, that is clear. The ship is clear, but the shipping lines not always know exactly what is inside the container.
It's their responsibility.
Yeah, I know. And this...
Commercially, that's unfair. That's unfair. They're doing a job.
They have to take care of it. They know what
All legitimate trade then would cease to be handicapped. All legitimate trade, every consumer would pay because now a member of the shipping line will have to witness the loading of every single container. You can only ask a company or an individual to take responsibility for something they have some way of controlling.
I completely disagree.
No, sorry, we must not carry on with this discussion because it is a permanent discussion.
And we've never reached it. And we're skipping the first question.
The first one, we will come back when we have the group work, because then we have fractions which are sent, not the whole component. And so in the moment...
For example, we don't hire free processors that don't dismantle it. So everything that is leaving, that is our responsibility, is in fraction. Everything.
Isn't fraction?
Yes, yeah, but we're talking about a different situation. Now the cases were importing from States or Europe, importing e-waste or illegal shipments to your country. And this is what we showed here. When you now do export of fractions, then you are on the other side.
It's the other way
exactly.
around.
How do we apply Basel for fractions? That's my question.
Yes, and
This is part of the exercise we're doing now.
All right.
Got it?
yeah, justice.
You want me to ask some questions? Okay, mine is more of a comment, but in those comments you will see the questions as well. I look at the case studies, and obviously there are a whole lot of lessons to be learned, especially with the first one, the Ghana case. Now, what I'm asking about the Ghana case is there was a good procedure where the competent authorities in the Netherlands sent a verification request to the competent authorities in Ghana. That's a good one.
Yes,
that is not. That didn't show in the one with Indonesia, the UK Indonesia one, where the Indonesian government said, okay, since you didn't ask for any verification, we're taking it to the media. So that's one learning. Now, the second one in the Ghana process, where after they moved out the waste and sent the other items down to Ghana, I don't know what transpired. Was just some form of verification as well before it eventually got to Ghana. That we didn't get to know. I mean, and these are case studies that we can always make reference to. So I think it's something that we need to work on. Now, on the Nigerian case, I didn't see where the competent authorities in the UK did some form of verification with the competent authorities in Nigeria, only for Nigerian government to say intercept. I mean, the UK government sent some information to the Nigerian government, say, hey, a shipment has left UK. We need to intercept it. I think that is putting the horse before the cart before the horse. And again, that's another area where the competent authorities should work together in partnership to have some form of best practices. And that's just all. And the next thing I want to ask is, if these exporters, these, I say it's a comment and a question, so it's going to be a little longer. I saw only one area where you said the case of the Nigerian exporters that are being prosecuted in the UK. Did that happen with the UK Indonesia case and the Netherlands Ghana case as well? Because if some persons don't serve as deterrent, then the essence of the Basel Convention and some of these regulations we have, it's not useful.
Yes, no, you mentioned it already that in this Nigerian case it was a prosecution going on in Great Britain, and from my experience, but I don't have an overlook. In Great Britain they are quite strong. The UK EPA, no, it's only for Wales in England. It's not Scotland. They bring quite a lot of cases to the court. And they have already a kind of history about it. In Holland and Dutch they do it partly too, in Germany too, but I wouldn't say in such an extent. And it is, my own experience is it is quite difficult to bring properly the proof where judge or Richter?
Prosecutor.
No, not prosecutor. Judge. Will really take the view of the Environment Authority. We had already cases where, for example, the authority in Bremen want to stop a container which was supposed to go to Ghana with what we have seen here at the second terminal, a lot of spare parts and old batteries. And the spare parts were declared as spare parts, so it was from the sender's point of view no waste. But the competent authority in Bremen was thinking, because it's still oiling and it was not properly packed, it was a question. So they brought this case to the court, and then the lawyer of the sender won the case in such a way that these funny spare parts, also they were oily, could go to Ghana, only the batteries has to be taken out. And the competent authority in Bremen lost the case.
We also have to be aware that, for example, in the case of Indonesia, it is still in the process of, how do you say, it's not, the case is not finished yet. So as long as there's no judgment, the competent authority of the UK does not share this information. That's why we only mentioned it in the last case. So it takes time.
It can take years.
It can take years, but there is a big effort from the side of the European countries to bring all the cases to court that are clearly illegal shipment. But sometimes we have to wait for the results.
Which will be good, because that will create case history, and then therefore everybody gets guidance of what the do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
At the moment there's not enough guidance, I think.
But I think especially UK is doing quite well.
The shipping companies very well, because they are in a better position to return. They are in better position because the two governments keep on passing bulk, you know, but the shipping companies are in a better position. But what happens today is that the shipping lines are also playing safe. You ask them to come and load fridges to the container, 500 fridges. They will just write, after loading, they will write in their bill of lading, said to contain. Said to contain. They are not taking responsibility. Then on the question of number, they will say said to be. So we need to involve the shipping companies very well so as to be able to return these containers. Thank you.
I think your comment is right, but from my own view, it is a permanent discussion. And I will finish it in this way. So,
Can I add something from the UK perspective?
Shift this discussion to the lunch break, as we are still about to do the group work. So, but you should make sure.
There are going to be problems. So, I haven't said that again. While we were doing the West Africa project, the European training, we were told very clearly in Rotterdam and Antwerp that they have over 9 million containers to look at, maybe just 8 officers. So the bulk is in your court. The developing countries have to take their destiny in their hands because they have very little staff, and they also talk about revenue generation. If they have to look at every container, then nothing will move. So what I'm saying, we still need to clap with 2 hands. While the developed countries are helping us, we need to help ourselves. And I will also advise that the laureates here should keep on exchanging ideas, trying to learn from each other, because these are serious issues for sustainable development. And for developing countries, which lack a lot of resources, when you have a load of toxic waste, you don't have the facilities. What do you do with it? Now, I've not heard what happened in case of the, who paid for this case in Netherlands, the waste from Germany, because the Basel Convention says if there is reasonable concern that there will be environmental problem or health problem, the government of that country that is holding it has to pay for it. And then, of course, if you can find the owner, you can pay. Of course, the issue of compensation is not yet fully resolved in Basel. So I'm just trying to raise these issues to see that what we are looking here is not as simple as it is. But I want to thank them for the enlightenment. Thank you.
It is about how to get used to fill in the notification documents.